So we've seen that greed has helped bring us many of the major advances of our times. But shouldn't most activities be untouched by greed? Don't we want people motivated by the thought of helping others, by selflessness?
Take the crucial job of lifeguarding. If my child's in the pool, I don't want some greedy, profit-driven company training and overseeing lifeguards. I'm relieved that most are trained by the Red Cross. They're non-profit, so they're selfless. That's a good thing when someone's drowning.
Victim does not appear to be conscious. Water's coming out on the Heimlich process. Water is coming out. 1, 2, 3. Victim is not breathing.
Call 911 and come back.
It takes a well-prepared lifeguard to deal with this.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. 1 and 2.
And to hold off a panic-stricken father.
Why are you pushing on him? Why are you doing that?
Actually, this drowning isn't real. It's a surprise drill done to test these lifeguards in Orlando.
Nice job. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, sir, so you've been working.
And that hysterical parent is really Jeff Ellis, the man who staged the drill. And surprise, he doesn't work for the Red Cross. The Red Cross doesn't require on-the-job testing. Ellis is an entrepreneur. He trains lifeguards for money and says simple training isn't enough. There must be ongoing supervision.
All right, let's rotate.
To make sure the swimmers are safe.
We're constantly criticized for being a profit company versus a non-profit agency. And I think by all measure, the profit company delivers a better service at a cheaper price.
The city of Orlando switched to Ellis's system last year because, as city pool manager Robert Barrows, Ellis's guards are better.
They are more alert. They are definitely doing a better job for the city of Orlando than we have in the past.
To win business, Ellis has had to constantly innovate.
You went over the victim and sunk him. No good.
He invented the rear huggy rescue, which places the weight of the victim on the rescue tube instead of on the lifeguard. He was the first to require the compact jump. He makes guards carry a plastic mouthpiece to help with mouth-to-mouth. The Red Cross has since adopted many of Ellis's techniques.
Why didn't they think of doing what you do?
I think they've been very complacent.
Complacent. It may be one reason that hundreds of pools have now switched from Red Cross guards to Ellis. They like the training and the follow-up. Profit is going to make people do it better? Isn't saving lives enough to keep the Red Cross vigilant?
There's always an extra mile to go in creativity, in thinking of that solution no one has yet tried.
Thinking harder, longer.
Working harder and longer.
For money.
For money and for having your company flourish and succeed.
To make money, Ellis has to win over more pools. He does that, he says, through vigilant oversight that includes secretly taping his lifeguards to make sure they follow his rules.
Isn't there something creepy about this, spying on people?
We don't consider it spying. They were given forewarning that in order to be in this lifeguard program, they were going to be held accountable.
Accountable means his guards must constantly scan the water with their rescue tubes always in hand. His camera caught this guard being friendly, talking to a girl, getting off the chair to sit next to her. He still looks at the swimmers, but Ellis yanked his license.
You never know when he's there.
Yeah,
He could be in a van 400 feet away from the pool. And be
These lifeguards claim they don't mind Ellis's spying.
I'm glad he's doing it because with the Red Cross, we never had anybody really come up and check up on us.
Ellis has taped Red Cross graduates, too, working at pools where no one seems worried about it. Jeff Ellis checking on them.
We have film of people that got off the chairs and went and cooked hamburgers outside the pool while people were swimming and no one was watching them. There's our lifeguard.
We asked the Red Cross about this. They say they stand by the quality of their training and say we're making an unfair comparison because neither they nor other nonprofit programs provide the extra supervision Ellis does. That's the local pool's responsibility. Maybe that's why our Cleveland TV station found these non-Ellis guards lying down on the job. We saw none of that at pools with Ellis guards. His lifeguards are vigilant like Baywatch. Even whistle twirling is banned. This Florida pool switched from Red Cross guards because pool manager Marie Sheba liked Ellis's scrutiny of his lifeguards.
I think it really makes a difference to them. They want to do well.
So even though greed and even profit have become ugly words in America compared to non-profit, caring, the public good. We forget what profit can inspire us to do. Economist Walter Williams.
Normally, in our country, those areas where people are motivated the most by greed are the areas that we're the most satisfied with. Supermarkets, computers, FedEx. Those areas where people say we're motivated by caring are the areas of disaster in our country, such as education, the post office, city garbage collection, police services.
I could add my own selections, like the Department of Motor Vehicles. Another good thing about greed is that it gets people to cooperate, to work together. Now, you think the opposite would be true, that pursuing profit, greed, would drive people apart. The reason we have all these products at a supermarket is that greed inspires millions of people all over the world to work together. Take this steak. How did this get here? It's sunrise in Manning, Iowa. At the Weiss farm, David Weiss is saddling up for another 14-hour workday. It's longer during calving season. There's so much work for the ranchers. Fixing fences, digging ditches, feeding the cows, harvesting hay. Why do they work so hard to get their beef to people like me in New York?
Do you think it's because they love people in New York? No, they love themselves. And by promoting their own self-interest, they make sure New Yorkers have beef. It's not because they care about New Yorkers, they care about themselves.
The Weisses are only the first of a series of people who, by caring about themselves, make sure I get my steak. There's Virgil Rasanke, who delivers the propane that heats the cattle's water.
They've got to drink water, and they can't drink frozen water.
Wanda Nelson keeps the packing house clean.
We'll make sure the plant is sanitized before we start production.
Then there are the people who slaughter the cattle, who cut the beef, the people who make their knives, their overalls, their protective gear, and the people who make the plastic that seals the meat, and the machines that do the sealing, and the people who pack the meat in boxes, and the people who make the boxes and inspect the boxes.
You got to check the boxes and make sure they don't get bad boxes.
Then there are the people who run the freezer facilities, the people who track orders by barcode, the people who make the barcode machines, and the truck driver, Randall Gilbert, who's hauling my steak to New York. Thousands of people have to work together to get the food to market. Are they doing all this for me?
No, I don't think of it that way.
No.
I think about making boxes and money.
Who's John Stossel?
I'm no one to Virgil Rasanke.
I never heard of him.
Virgil and all these other people don't really care if some TV correspondent gets his steak, yet they cooperate to make it happen, motivated by self-interest. Is that greed? Well, the line isn't so clear. Remember the money grab experiment?
Go.
People got less by taking everything at once.
Go.
But eventually, people figure out they'll make more if they work together.
But if we each take $1 at a given time, then
there will never be
it will
more than
never
10.
empty the bowl.
They're just as greedy, but now they're cooperating and making more. That's just how business works.
We're in the business just like everybody else, you know, to make money. Provide for my 3 boys, my wife.
Buys you a house, buys you really nice vehicles.
In a free market, you get more for yourself by serving your fellow man. You don't have to care about him, just serve him. And ask yourself, how much would get done if it all depended on human love and kindness? I feel sorry for New Yorkers in terms of beef. If it all depended on human love and kindness, I doubt whether you would have 1 cow in New York.
Probably right. Still, I don't like to admit that self-interest or greed is the motivator. And we certainly don't like to teach that to our kids. But what if we did?
This school was once considered New York City's worst, lowest reading scores in the state. Kids assaulted teachers more than once a week. One teacher's hair was set on fire. It was around then that Steve Mariotti left his import-export business to teach here.
What's 40 plus 20?
At first, he says, he was a horrible teacher.
I lost control of my classes. A kid got me in a headlock, rubbing my head.
In desperation, he asked the kids, "Why are you doing this to me?"
One kid said, "We did it because we just can't stand you. You are boring." And I said, well, was there ever a time when I was a good teacher, when I touched you or taught you something that had any value? And the same young man said, the only time you really had value to me was when you told us about your import-export business and how you'd bring in ladies' shoes at $5 from Anger, India, add $1 on for insurance and freight, take it down to the Lower East Side and sell them for $7, and your income statement would be $126,000.
Oh, he'd remembered all this from the beginning of the term?
He remembered. And here was a guy that had been defined as brain damaged, emotionally upset, people were afraid of him, and he'd recreated, in total, a Harvard Business School income statement. Does anybody have any ideas for a small business that you could start right now as a kid?
Mariotti changed his way of teaching.
And you can trade with anybody in the room. Now,
he started talking about making money, and suddenly the kids were different.
When you hear people complaining, that's where the big money is.
They're suddenly interested in learning?
They're suddenly interested in learning, and they come to life in the classroom.
His teaching changed lives.
You found my doctor jersey?
In high school, Frank Alameda was floundering until he took Mariotti's course. He graduated and went on to open this sporting goods store. Now he employs 6 people from his old neighborhood.
I'm probably the biggest thing that happened to my family because I got people looking up to me, people that I grew up with just will pat me on my back, will say, Frank, keep it up. You're the only guy that got something going for you out here.
That's $1, my friend.
Howard Stubbs grew up in a poor section of the Bronx. Mariotti's course led him to rent a hot dog stand. Now he owns 5 and makes as much as $3,000 a week.
You do get a lot of respect. You know, people look at you and say, wow, every day that guy, he's out there, he's making his money, he's doing his thing, you know.
Will there be better days?
Jimmy McNeil has a music business that makes more than $1 million a year. He says he has this because of what Steve Mariotti taught him in high school.
Children that are born into poverty are fascinated by capitalism and by ownership and by markets.
Visualize them from the top.
We think of capitalism as something the privileged practice, but in some ways capitalism is the big equalizer. Money doesn't care if you're black or white or green.
Have a good day.
It's the people at the bottom who need capitalism most, who need the system in which everyone is free to trade and free to pursue money, because capitalism opens up opportunities to climb up that economic ladder.
Somewhere along the lines, Bill Gates started off with 0. Somewhere along the lines, Quincy Jones started off with 0.
My rule for kids...
It's not a color thing. You know, it's an opportunity thing.
So greed has its benefits, but aren't we ignoring the downside here? What about all those workers who've lost jobs while their bosses built places like this? Shouldn't there be limits on how much people can make? Shouldn't the owner's greed be restrained for the sake of the workers? We'll consider that next.